everybody is a singing intro. I gave everybody that for free. That's
free,
free.
and it's
free.
a solo because I'm not joining. So
yeah. Oh, you're not gonna harmonize? Okay. Well, I mean,
no,
choir
okay.
and everything, but that's all right.
Yeah, those were that's like 20 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So you just quit. Like singing doesn't exist to you anymore after you.
In the shower and in the car. Yeah.
Oh, okay. What about? Hear me out. When you're showering in the car, I don't freaking know.
Yeah. Especially, I'll belt it hard whenever both of those worlds collide for sure.
How would that even? I don't even know how that would work. As soon as
whenever I give
it,
my car a shower, I really sing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when you're
driving
in the
through
car
one
wash?
of those car showers, you know?
Yeah.
That's a different name for it, dude.
Yep, repping Dudesy today. What's your movie shirt today? Mine's just Dudesy, but yeah.
I'm just we came on watching. We watched Mandalorian, and then we record. So I'm wearing Star Wars all the time. It feels like.
Okay, gotcha.
I got Star Wars on the brain.
I mean, hey man, this is the way. It's Justified, so it's all good. It's Oliphant. It's totally Timothy Oliphant from Justified. It's
he's still alive for sure or something, right?
Yeah. He's totally alive in the show for sure. Yeah, I forgot that he was in the show for a second.
He got put in the back. You got put in the back to tank, dude. That's not called rejuvenation, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, this is Current Cinema Podcast. I'm Jeff, joined by Kyle. As always, this is just a basic ass episode. And guess what? I don't have any hot topics that we need to touch on, unless we want to talk about how WB Discovery is kind of crap in the bed with HBO. But that's all right. You know, that's their own grave that they're digging. It's not our concern.
When they've been digging it for 6 months, so I'm just kind of I'm watching this train wreck that's been going on way too long at this point. So I'm like, okay, wrap this up, whatever this is. You know, I got to move on with my news. You know,
it's like, how could you be so boneheaded? The way that they're writing things reminds me of, since I'm a wrestling fan, it reminds me of Vince McMahon and WWE, because they are so thick-headed and stubborn and refusing to listen to any feedback from any people that have logic in their brains.
Yeah.
And just staying the course. Like, it was rumored for months that they would change HBO Max to just Max. And for, I think it was just a couple months, right? It was like the last 1 or 2 months that we knew that.
Within this year.
And everybody on Twitter, Facebook, everywhere was like, that's terrible. Don't do that. But they still did it. Everybody. Literally everybody.
People still want to be like, oh, man, it's a really good show. They're like, oh, it's a really good show. And no, it's like an HBO level show. Like that, people still say stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
So for them to go, let's get rid of the thing that everyone identifies good TV with. Let's get rid of that.
Yeah.
And we'll have Max, you know, and that won't be confusing at all, you know? We'll just have Max.
It's so I mean, I guess I know that they're different companies and it's a different situation, but again, to compare it to wrestling, it's the equivalent of WWE buying WCW, and WCW had all this talent, all these great shows, personalities already intact, and they're like, yeah, we're not gonna do anything with that. Like, you know what? We're just gonna do our own thing.
We bought it to kill it.
Maybe we're gonna crap on them too while we're at it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they're doing. It's almost like, because Discovery is a less successful entity, I would say, to the general public than HBO or Warner Media is, that they're bitter about it. They're like, we should be bigger. We should be bigger than HBO.
We'll show you.
Yeah, we'll show you by removing the HBO name. So
I kind of have this ongoing theory that someone's some high executive level's kid is just named Max. He's like, I'm doing it for you, kid. I'm doing it for you, buddy.
Yeah.
I love you, buddy. You know, I know I was a drunk, deadbeat father, but I'm naming this thing after you because I love you, Maximilian. You know,
that kid better be dead, or a horrible accident happened and they're in a coma, or something horrible to justify naming a whole thing after it that millions of people have to subscribe to.
Yeah.
I say have to, you don't have to, but you know what I mean. We all feel obligated.
You have to, yeah. You're not watching some of these shows, you're an idiot. I don't know.
I know, for real. Come on. You know, I was about to shout out some famous shows that aren't airing anymore. I was like, come on, guys, Westworld. Oh, wait.
Yeah, right. Like Warrior, that's totally not going to happen anymore. You know, like that. Remember Warrior, everybody?
And everything, and it's totally coming back, guys. Just trust
remember season 2 that was supposed to happen, but I guess hasn't shot yet. Yeah, we're all going to have fun with that one.
Didn't mean to talk about this topic at all, but anyway, so we're going to talk about things we're watching in this segment called, Hey, what did you watch? Hey, what did you watch?
Who, me?
Yeah. Maybe some classic hard movies.
some classic hard movies, yeah.
It's another doozy.
Maybe some Turner Classic movies, you know.
Turner Classic. Oh god, that's great. Anyway, hey, so this segment we do one new movie and one kind of old. These are all like kind of nebulous. Not really that nebulous,
like
but
hey, this is I just rewatched this.
Yeah, usually it's a rewatch. For me, it is anyway. This week at least. New is like new adjacent. Like it might have just come out in the last 6 months. Might have
try and stay within 6 months. But now that we're so far into this year, if I come with like a 2022 movie, you get to shit on me a little bit, you know. Carl didn't do his homework this week, you know. Like I don't know. You get to shame me a little bit.
The present company, being me, would not do that. I promise.
Okay. I've got like 20 movies I've totally not downloaded that I need to get to. So
yeah, we don't download things here. We buy things the straight and narrow.
Always VOD every time. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, the new movie thing that's going on, where this whole pattern that the industry is in, where it's like a movie comes out in theaters and then like a week or two later it's on video on demand, and they're like, didn't that just come out? So
yeah,
there's actually a movie I was able to watch at home.
Yeah.
And I think, did you watch it too?
Yeah, you and I synchronized on this one.
Oh, nice. So, yeah, the new movie I wanted to bring up was A Good Person.
Podcast first. Yeah. No, never mind.
Yeah,
never mind. No, we did.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, that's good. We're going to do a spoiler cast on A Good Person.
Right. No, buckle in. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much
it's sad. The end. That's really all I have to say.
And that apparently was a lot of the hang-ups that people had about, at least I should say on the critics side. I feel like general audiences tend to love stuff like this more.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what you can appreciate about it is on the surface.
Right.
Which is both good, and it can be both a pro and a con, and sometimes depends on the movie and who's directing and writing. But anyway, A Good Person. It is it's a drama, it's a heavy drama, starring Florence Pugh. I think at the time she was with Zach, right? I think they were together. Like he wrote the part for her, and as they were filming, they were together. Yep. And then after that, she was like, "You're a terrible director. We're done."
Now that I fucked a movie out of you, I'm leaving. She absolutely didn't do that. That was really kind of sexist to say, and I'm sorry, but I had to go for it. I had to shoot for the joke.
That's the lowest available.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But also, I mean, the cast is kind of deep to me. Like
it's really deep, and there's some. He's been, Zach Braff has been putting Morgan Freeman in some of his movies for a bit now. It feels like.
Yeah, they did the remake of Going in Style or whatever it was. Michael Caine and whoever the hell else was in that movie. Right. Another old guy, no doubt.
It was old people, the old movie, yeah.
And I think ever since then they've definitely had at least a working relationship where they're like, yeah, let's work together again.
By the way, great. Morgan Freeman, old as shit.
He's super old. He's so
old that he has shaky voice now, and I'm like, oh, his voice he doesn't even have like the Morgan Freeman. I mean, it's still there, but it's like, it's old manified.
It is very much so.
And
his character is kind of
what we do. We get old.
I would say like 70% hardened and kind of a hard ass. And sometimes it plays well, and sometimes you're like, you're an old man. Calm down.
But hey, man, even hard asses get old, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. It's true. Who else is in this? I'm trying to remember. I don't remember who. I don't think I've seen the actor before that played her fiance, boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, whatever. I recognize the actress
Molly Shannon.
Molly Shannon. She played the mom. Yeah. She's so good. That explains why she hosted SNL. I was wondering watching SNL this week.
I didn't put that together either. Yeah.
It's like, why the hell is she on SNL? What did she come out with?
Is this alumni week? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on? I mean, I appreciate it because, I love her old characters and stuff, but I was just baffled. And then
she probably is 50 years old now. Remember that?
She literally is. Yeah. She did that sketch again with the Jonas Brothers last weekend, and she was like, I've been 50 since before. That was one of the lines, actually, was I've been 50 since before you was born. And I was like, yep, that's technically true. Like, she's been, that character has been 50 since I was like 12.
Yeah, same.
And now I caught up to her. That's crazy.
Right. That's called time, brother.
That's time. And that's
how the passage of time works.
Oh my gosh. Dudesy bits all day. Hey guys, go listen to Dudes. If you take away one thing from this podcast, go listen to
Dudesy. This is basically a Dudesy fan podcast masquerading as a movie podcast.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's like this is the second Dudesy shirt I own.
I'm buying Dudesy shirts so we can start wear your Dudesy shirt.
And I got the Wolt shirt. And I do like the one with where he's got the like De Niro. It's not the De Niro. He's just got the crow makeup on, and I think whatever. I like that shirt too. I'm thinking about that one. Anyway.
Yeah.
Dudesy Fan Podcast. That's what we are. Anyway, A Good Person is written and directed by Zachary Braff. And I haven't seen a movie of his since, I think, the one that he crowdfunded or whatever.
It's one everyone didn't like, right?
Yeah, I don't think anybody liked that.
I liked it, but
I don't remember it.
I get it. I also get it, yeah. It hit me. I think I was watching it during COVID, so there's a lot of like, I think I recognize a lot of this stuff or whatever, yeah. I
think is it called This Is Where I Leave You? Does that sound right?
Oh, I don't remember.
I know he did Going in Style after that, which was more of like a studio. I
didn't see that one. Yeah,
I didn't either because it looked more like a studio movie meant for general audiences, like older people to enjoy.
Yeah, I remember I was listening to the Scrubs podcast when he was talking about like this movie and how close he was to it, and I was just like, I don't know in what he never really talked about in what way he was close to it because he's not a drug addict, obviously. Right. I don't think he associates with drug addicts. From what I hear, he's kind of an uppity piece of shit, so I don't think he associates with a lot of like that type of stuff or whatever. But for whatever reason, he said that maybe he knew somebody who went through something like this, but like
maybe because
I knew it seemed like he really wanted to work out a drama, you know what I mean? Whereas like he's kind of done like family dramas and stuff like that beforehand.
Right.
Brother
Garden
stuff.
State with some of that, yeah.
Yeah, Garden State, with some of that, just kind of working out on some stuff, especially some like working through grief and whatnot, Right. I don't know. It seemed like he wanted to revisit some of those things and really amplify it in a big way.
Yeah.
This is a big sad movie.
Oh yeah, big old sads. And there's some funny like offbeat stuff where like Florence Pugh said, but the humor is very dry and and you're not in the mood to laugh when it happens because there's so much going on that you're like. She has a moment where she tries to do Scout's Honor and it's just Spock, the Spock ensign, and I'm like, see, in another movie that would be hilarious, but this has been depressing so far, so I'm struggling to laugh.
It's super depressing, and there's some interesting things about her character where it's like she kind of got into the drugs because of something that happened, like a big tragedy,
Yeah, which I didn't know about. I really didn't know about what the movie was, honestly.
When I saw the trailer, I thought the boyfriend died.
Me too.
So it's like I kind of was like when what happened, I was like it was kind of got thrown for a loop in a good way, where I was like, oh, the trailer didn't really reveal like who got removed from the chessboard here and what kind of sent her down this road or whatever.
That was pretty smart, honestly.
It was really smart, and I like that it was a simple drug like opioids or something like that. Where
something you can easily get.
Sometimes it's hard for me. I dabbled in some stuff, Jeffrey. But like sometimes it's hard for me to watch like a movie and like they're like, you got to go on this heroin journey with us. You just be in the shoes of this guy, and I'm like, can't, because I would never. Like that's too hard of a thing to like. It's hard for me to.
And I say that about myself too, but we say that, but those are prescription drugs. The ones that she was taking in the movie are prescription. So
it's easier, and that's what I was going towards. It's easier for me to connect with a drug story like this because I was like, oh, anyone could slip into this.
It's not like
whereas like I'm not gonna have a bad day tomorrow and go, I'm gonna go get heroin, And now I'm living, a Darren Aronofsky movie or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's it's interesting to watch because I'm like, oh, people do go through this journey, but it's not something I can like self-reflect on. Whereas like. Yeah, anyone can get in some sort of accident and like all of a sudden be hooked on this thing that millions of people are hooked on legally.
Yeah, there's a reason it's a problem. It's because it's legal. Yeah,
I kind of and even though it used opioids a lot, it wasn't very like opioid preachy. Like, oh, you better not be on this stuff. There wasn't a lot of preachiness to it either. So
not really. It was kind of like implied throughout the movie that the audience should really know by now what damage it does. Like,
everybody in the movie...
It's more about the fallout of running out of them.
Everybody in the movie knew the stakes of being on opioids.
Yeah.
No one was like, you're addicted to opioids. Like, no one was like surprised or taken off base or whatever. It felt like everybody, like in this world and that world, was informed about how bad opioids were.
Yeah, exactly.
So, even though she lacked a support system, like it's or at least one that worked for her.
Because when I think the movie also did a really good job at capturing how overbearing the mother felt, because her energy was just not matching Florence Pugh's energy like at all, and I could feel myself like kind of shut down too as I was watching it.
Sure.
And watching the mother just constantly talk. And like Florence Pugh's just like, I just need more drugs, man. Like, I mean, the whole time
I think she's going through withdrawals during that particular scene as well. Right. So it's just like she's trying to do a good thing, but she's kind of being punished for it, you know?
Yeah.
Which is what all addicts go through, mind you, you know? Like, I'm trying to kick this thing, and by kicking it, it kind of slowly kills you a little bit, you know? So, like, they just go right back to the drugs, you know? It's like, well, what's the fucking point then if I feel like shit, you know? I might as well just get my fix or whatever, you know? So now you have a screaming mom outdoor talking about Etsy, you know, stuff, and it's just like it was a very particular moment where you could feel her frustration and everything like that.
Like even in my shoes and not being anywhere close to that character's mentality, in that moment I was like, yeah, go ahead and give me some of those drugs.
It's just a pill, you know.
It's just a pill, man. One can't hurt. Come on, man. One can't hurt.
Yeah.
That's how it starts. Anyway, I think Florence Pugh was fantastic in this, but I mean, when is she not? I'm really, really happy that Zach. I mean, it probably came with them living together through COVID. That he was like, I wrote this role for you, and I'm going to have you sing in it because you're a great singer and you don't sing in movies.
Yeah.
And she was a singer before, like when she was like in her teens. She had a YouTube channel where she just played and sang original songs and stuff.
She's British. Brie Larson, that's who she is.
Pretty much, yeah, because Brie started with that, right? She started doing like YouTube, just like whatever, when she was super young. Yeah. Maybe not on YouTube, but she does have videos out there of her playing guitar.
I think she was a legit pop star, wasn't she, or pop singer? I don't know if star is the right word.
I don't know if she was. I didn't know if she was.
I'd have to check the wiki. I don't know. That's a maybe she just made stuff for YouTube and like you're considered a pop. I don't know. I don't know what the
same thing with like Florence Pugh. Like same thing that we're discovering with Bella Ramsey, who plays Ellie on Last of Us. Where like, oh, she has a YouTube channel and she's like singing a bunch of songs. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. And playing guitar and stuff. So clearly we're going to get some scenes that we love from the second game in the second season. That's going to be great. Anyway, she's got a great voice. I'm like. The whole movie, I'm kind of, she does like 2 songs or 3 songs, but the whole movie, I'm thinking she needs to like do an album or like a musical or something because that voice is too good to just just not use it in any capacity. That's just crazy to me. So I love that he included that stuff in there. I assume he did it because he's like, I know you have the talent for this. I want other people to see it. And,
well, it creates it's not just like, hey, and this character sings. Like it's kind of a part of her like healing journey too and stuff like that.
It is. So. Yeah, she was already a writer, a songwriter before. I actually don't even know what her job was.
I don't either. To me, it sounded like she's like, oh, I want to keep doing it. It sounded like it was more of a hobby, like. Oh,
yeah, the songwriting struck me as more of a hobby that she started to pursue more seriously as the movie went along. Even though she had her own separate struggles she was dealing with, but. Before all the tragedy stuff happened, I have no idea what she did. Like, I wish the movie kind of would have shown me.
I kind of don't know what her fiance did either.
Yeah, I know.
Jobs aren't really important in this world.
It's apparently not.
Get one.
Drugs are though.
Drugs are, getting that fix is, And there was some interesting.
There was like 16 times, like I have no money, and I'm like, well, then go do what you did before. What'd you do before?
Do that thing that you were doing before. Yeah, it was interesting. Also, like when she's like on the prowl for her fix or whatever, and ends up like running into those people at the bar and whatnot, and kind of a supercharged, like I haven't seen you since high school. Hey, you used to be the hot girl, now you're asking for, you're a junkie pretty much, Right. It was just a really interesting, trade back and forth that like. I'm sure is very real to people who have gone back to their hometown or whatever.
Well, I think that was the kid from the son from Hereditary. I think that's who that actor was, right?
Him. Yeah.
And that's again yet another person that I was like, oh, they're in this too. Like I just
and it's like a small part.
It is, but it's a great role.
It's really good. Yeah, he's like
good. Intense in it, and you.
Oh yeah, it builds up to it. Yeah, at first he's kind of like, oh, look at this airhead, and then like by the end of the scene, you're like, oh, that was kind of spooky.
Yeah, and not like creepy and like oh, she's just gonna like give her body to these guys for a fix. It never struck me that way, but it was still like there was tension there because of their past.
Yeah, right.
And how she came off as apparently
role, again, it's a role, not a reversal, but her role has changed. She's not like top of the class anymore. She's just
she's not the popular girl dating the quarterback or whatever her ex fiance was. I think they mentioned he was like a star sports ball player.
He was a sports ball player, even though he was half deaf. That's crazy. What a weird.
I do like the. Also, I like that the movie didn't really explicitly say this. You just kind of have to figure it out. But I think Zach did this intentionally, where he wrote the part for Florence Pugh. They say her character's 26 in the movie. I think that's her actual age now. But she's 26 in the movie, and Morgan Freeman is she's 27, 28, something like that. Yeah, okay. And Morgan Freeman's is 90 or something now. So I think it was interesting to have two people, one's on their way out and one's still kind of on their way into life, as an adult, kind of going through a similar grief window in their life or phase or whatever, while also having demons that they've been dealing with in terms of addiction. Yeah. And how they both have dealt with them, and how he is so yes, he's stubborn, but I wanted to say something else. He's almost unwilling to look at his past mistakes and be Morgan Freeman's character, I mean, and be yeah, I messed that up. I could have done that better. I don't know. I just don't. It was interesting the way that he was written. It was almost he never flat out said, "I'm glad I did all those things when I was a parent," you know. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. He never flat out says that, but he never flat out says either, "Man, I regret doing all that stuff."
Yeah.
It's kind of he's at peace with it in a strange way, and
I think that's part of this 12 steps or 7 steps or whatever how many steps there are.
Maybe we missed the forgiveness stage before the movie.
Yeah, I feel at some point you become at peace with what you've done, because you have to go on that journey of apologizing to everybody that you've hurt and everything like that. So it's at a dude of 90 who's probably been in the program for a while. I think he said by this time he was 10 years sober. But he'd probably been on and off or whatever since he had hurt his son really bad. So maybe we're talking 20 years that he's probably been, in and out of the program or whatever. Mm-hmm. He's probably made some sort of peace, I assume, I don't know. Maybe that's why because when he does kind of show some vulnerability, obviously, towards the end.
Does.
I don't want to get into too many major spoilers here, but there is some vulnerability that he shows kind of there at the end. And there's a lot of talk about his father, and there's themes of the cycle of violence and everything like that with that storyline.
Yeah. And the violence can also mean self-harm through drugs or alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't do anything overtly.
Well, the cycle of violence is echoed between Florence and her mom's, thing, because her mom obviously kind of self-medicates. It just comes in the form of wine and kind of being a quirky shut-in.
And shallow crap.
Yeah.
Online,
so
basically, it's just drowning in materialism. More or less.
There's a cycle there that everyone's kind of feeding into.
Yeah. And I think I think it's it feeds man, I'm really struggling with words today. It's not a good day to podcast for me, apparently. But it kind of feeds her journey, and she's looking at Morgan Freeman's struggles and being I hope I don't end up like that at that age. So she's kind of yeah. I mean, that's kind of what all of us have to do at that age, really, is look at all the older people around us and see how they're dealing with their choices later, much, much later in life.
Yeah.
And being do I want to end up like that?
Yeah.
I wish that movie kind of actually explored some of that a little more. That would have been interesting.
Right.
I think cons-wise, I think it was just a little. Sometimes it came off a little too Lifetime movie-ish for me. Mm-hmm. It's still a good movie, but there's some things that where critics, people that didn't like the movie at least that are on the critics side were it's a bit overwrought and stuff, and I'm yeah, I get that. It's going a little too hard on the drama. And there are some moments that come out of nowhere, and you're whoa, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. There's a moment involving a gun, then I'm whoa, what the hell? Where'd that come from? It just kind of felt the performance didn't match the energy of the scene to me. It was just really weird and jarring. It kind of came out, not that it came out of nowhere, there was no build, but it just made me go, huh, all right, that's a choice, writing-wise.
Right.
There were just some minor things that were a little off to me in the movie. That's about it. Yeah. That's all I'm trying to say. But for the most part, I really liked it, and I would recommend it.
Yeah, I'd recommend it too. I would definitely maybe come in with a, after a can-do attitude day or something.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Or
I wouldn't have a bad day with this movie. Be I'm gonna sit back and enjoy a good person. Not a lot of good people in this movie.
Right.
There's a lot of people struggling to be good, and that's admirable. But it's a movie about people making a lot of wrong choices, and then the consequences of those choices.
Right.
And you know, the
idea is somebody that does say the line, and super interesting. Somebody does say like, "I'm a good person," and even though they're throughout the movie, they've shown that they're kind of not, and they kind of are at the same time. You know, like they kind of dabble in a bit of both, good and evil, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. But it is interesting, like, at what point are you yourself going to be comfortable with calling yourself a good person? And you know, because he said it, the person that said it in the movie said it with like such conviction that I was like, he believes that he's a good person.
Yeah, good person's really a measurement of like your own self-worth, kind of in this movie.
Exactly.
And you know, like it's again, it's a hard watch, and it's a tough stuff, and there's a lot of, you know, things that are maybe too adjacent to what people have gone through or witnessed people go through and stuff like that. Yeah. So, you know, just warning. You know, when I pull up a YouTube video and it's about suicide or whatever, I get one of those like warnings that's like, well, be careful. This might be too much for people. Yeah. That's just kind of what I'm giving here. Is that like, you know, this might trigger some, you know, things that are hard to process or deal with and stuff like that for some people, you know.
Yeah, I would just say
outside of those little warnings like that, I would say it's a pretty interesting movie from a pretty overall goofy guy, I would say. So it's interesting that he had
true, that's true as well.
It's kind of this dark and this kind of a study of just like grief and addiction and stuff like that, and someone who, to me, and I could be wrong, I don't know this guy, is a total square, you know. So it's just interesting that he had kind of this story in him to me.
Right.
So really, like, I really, there's no Zach Braff-isms in this movie. Like Turk doesn't show up at some point and is like, hey, you know, hey, here I am, because he does that in most movies. But like, so like really anyone could have directed this movie. I don't know if it's you know, I think the big thing that makes it Zach Braff is obviously he had a role in mind for his at the time girlfriend, and I think that elevated this in a big way, because I think anybody wants her in their movies at this point. I'm pretty sure she's like
absolutely.
She's like Jennifer. She's Jennifer Lawrence now, right? Like she's the girl. Like she's the
she's the new it girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Jennifer Lawrence is on her way back up to that, but she's just more curious and trying different roles that she hasn't done before.
And like it's, you know, like Jennifer Lawrence was Florence Pogue's age, you know, like 6 or 7 years ago. You know what I mean? So it's like they're just like, she's older now. Obviously, she's like in her 30s, and she's gonna take like older roles and stuff like that. But like Florence is young and can kind of take those Jennifer Lawrence roles from yesteryear. You know, so. It's cool, and it's like it's
Hollywood basically,
and it's funny. I don't know of a single like phoned in movie that Florence has done either. Maybe besides that Olivia Wilde movie, but she didn't phone in anything in that movie. That movie
actually, she was actually really good in that movie.
Yeah, she's great in that movie. It's just that movie kind of sucks. You know?
Yeah, what a chore that movie was.
Yeah.
Also, I like Zoe Lister-Jones a lot. She is the whatever you call it, the person that runs the meetings at the church.
Oh, I know her from a sitcom.
She was in the one. I think she was in the Whitney show with like.
Yeah, she's Whitney's friend. Yeah.
But she's also a writer director as well. And I saw one of her movies when I used to go to like film festivals in Dallas. Mm-hmm. There was one of her movies showed there that she wrote and directed. It was really good. It was like her and her husband had their problems in the relationship, so as a way to, I don't know, as a way to like heal, they started a band together, and they started writing songs about each other in the band, and it was really interesting.
I feel like I've seen that movie.
It's quite good. I actually liked it a lot.
Is this something you would have pitched on an old podcast?
Might have been. I have no freaking clue.
Okay, all right. It sounds really familiar to me, and I know who that is, so it's like girl,
She's good. She's real good.
I like her.
Yeah. You know what?
Mark me down for enjoyed, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely have a palate cleanser for this one if you're gonna just
puppy videos or something.
Watch period. Yeah, exactly. Like
if you're married or live with somebody, go give them a hug, you know? Like, I don't know. Tell them you love them because life is hard, and you know.
Well, let's talk about an old movie that we watched. I recently rewatched, and I say recently like 2 weeks ago, but whatever. It's the only old movie that I rewatched recently. Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah.
Wow.
Movie rules so hard, dude.
Yeah, it's okay, I guess. What? No, I love that movie. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. Yeah, I'm a huge fan.
I wish I had more to say about it. I think somebody brought it up on our the other podcasts from this channel, Current Gen podcast, and it might have been Derek. I think it was his first time watching it. I think
that sounds right. Yeah.
And man, do I wish this was a movie I could watch for the first time again. Because I remember going in with like these expectations of like, this just looks like a generic blockbuster. Let's just get this over with. But everybody said it was good, so here I am in the theater.
Yeah.
And then you finish it, and you're like, oh my god, that was such a blast.
Yeah, big time.
And this rewatch is probably my might have been sixth time watching it. You know, I still get glued to it every single time. It's really weird. Like I tell myself I put it on as background noise, and I'll like do games on my phone while it's on. Games that don't take my attention too much because I want to pay attention to what's on the screen.
Yeah, sure.
To some degree. But that was my intention. And then the movie keeps going through its motions of like he kind of gets immediately sucked into that whole time whatever situation that I just put down my phone and just watched the movie. Like I just straight up forgot to like do what I said I was gonna do, and like you know, I said I was gonna actually get stuff done while the movie was playing, and I didn't at all. I just got hooked again. Every single time I watch the movie, that happens. It's just so freaking enjoyable. Yeah, man, 2014 was a crazy year for movies, for real.
Remember that you need to remember this movie when the steam starts picking up for Henry Cavill's Warhammer, because like it's gonna look like this movie.
Oh,
like the aliens that they fight look very much like the Tyranids that wear like
suits.
You know, the mech suits that they're in are obviously kind of look like the Space Marine suits. She's got like a chainsaw sword that's directly from Warhammer 40K.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, she does.
So like it's a like just remember this movie when we start like ramping up for that Warhammer, because like it can be done, like, you know, like big hulking, you know, like mechanical soldiers and stuff like that, like fighting like, you know, space aliens and whatnot. So
well, that sounds exciting as heck.
Yeah, and they pulled it off, and that movie is what, like 10 years old now. So
oh my god, dude, what the hell? That's almost 10 years
movie.
old now.
Yeah,
oh no. That's kind of like the feeling I had watching that there's a Boston Marathon bombing miniseries on Netflix. It's actually quite good.
Is it a dramatization or a
No. It's, I mean, they only did dramatic recreations of certain scenes that they could not get footage.
So like a crime doc, like any crime docu.
Yeah, it's literally just a crime docuseries, and they're interviewing people that were there and helped move the investigation along.
So it's not like a TV version of like the Mark Wahlberg movie from a few years ago.
No, that
or
movie,
Jake Gyllenhaal.
That movie genuinely both.
Oh, there was two movies?
Yes, there were.
And I somehow remember both of them, but don't remember the two movies.
So the Mark Wahlberg one was really weird because the Boston bombing came out.
Whenever the Boston bombing launched, you know, it was a big bang. Yeah.
Released. Oh God, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Like it's content.
Sorry to everybody.
Yeah, I know. Sorry to Boston. But so like that tragedy happened, and then the Mark Wahlberg movie came out like 3 years later, and everybody was like, "Shouldn't you calm the f down about this?" And then the Jake Gyllenhaal one happened 2 years after. That was like 5 years later. So like that's okay. 5 years is good.
Yeah.
3 years?
Well,
like,
it's more about
it's almost
him
like you
being...
really started writing the script as soon as it happened.
Like the Jake Gyllenhaal one was more of a character piece, right? That was about like
it was about
it wasn't about like, whereas I feel like the like most Mark Wahlberg movies about history feels fake and blowhardy.
Well, it's also a Peter Berg movie, and he is very
everything I just said goes double for anything Peter Berg. So
yeah. As soon as you
just fake and blowhardy.
It's like, I'm gonna make a historical drama. You're like, you're gonna make a drama. It's not.
Yeah, you're gonna make a drama, and you're gonna pencil whip the shit out of it. I'll tell you that. Yeah.
But the
Green Zone is a documentary. No, it's a made up story that you made up. That is.
It's like they wrote the entire script to Green Zone. That's a different director, dude.
Did I get that wrong? What am I thinking?
Yeah, it's Paul Greengrass and Matt Damon. But there's a line that Matt Damon says in the movie where he's screaming at somebody, "It's always important. It always matters why we go to war." And I feel like the entire script was written around that. Like his one line of, "It matters why we go to war," because it's about the whole reason that we went to the Iraq War.
Sure.
And I'm like, all right, dude. I mean, you could have made a good movie around that, but all right. Anyway, so the Boston Marathon bombing thing miniseries came out today, I think, and I finished it. And I think I messaged us in the group, and all of us in the group, and I was like, dang, man, I feel like this just happened. Like they were interviewing people that I remember their faces, and I remember what they sound like because I was watching the news. Like I was watching this manhunt unfold, and it was the same people on screen, on camera, like talking, doing interviews, for a good however long it took, 3 or 4 days to find them. And I'm like, man, I remember all these details. When did this happen again? Oh, 10 years ago? Oh my God, dude. So like when you mentioned Edge of Tomorrow being almost 10 years old, it just makes me feel even older, dude. This is stupid. This aging thing, pass.
It's dumb. Yeah. I was thinking Lone Survivor. Excuse me. That was.
Oh yeah. That's the one movie where they go somewhere they shouldn't really be in anyway, and all of Mark Wahlberg's friends get killed, and he's the only one.
Yeah. And apparently everything about that movie is like totally fake because I worked with a bunch of military dudes who were just like, that's not what happened.
Well, I thought that that they were caught, like they were. I think it was just a small team. It was
supposed to be there. There was like 4 of them or something like that. I don't.
Yeah.
Dude.
And
I know I didn't like
regular
that movie.
Civilians caught them. Spotted them, and they were like, what do we do? We can't just gun them down. So what do we do? And the civilians might snitch on them. They might be a Taliban friendly or whatever the enemy to the U.S. was in that country. I can't remember if it was Taliban or Al Qaeda or whatever. But they were like, what do we do? They're going to snitch on us. So that's when they started getting shot at, is like once they got snitched on.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember the point of the movie. I remember the tension being really good for a movie. But there was no way.
I think it was about a lone survivor, is what I think.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Yeah. I know that there was like a hot rod style where they fell down a mountain like really like way too long. Where I'm like, this is almost funny. Like Mark Wahlberg, he's just like, wow, he's still tumbling. Wow. Which I think actually was something that actually did happen. Like a guy took a pretty big spill, and whatever. I know that Peter Berg doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to the war movies. To call that back.
and yes, and the same kind of happened with Patriots Day. We're like some of the stuff, maybe 30% of the stuff happened. Like I know that
like the Boston bombing happened.
The Boston bombing happened, and the guy got caught in a boat. Yeah. Those details I remember being in the movie. Peter all the Berg's stuff around it, I don't remember that much happening. Yeah, nailed that one. Yeah, big time. My job is done.
Yeah.
Go back to fiction, dude. And then
he made that. And then he made that starring in Corky Romano, buddy.
Remember the oil rig that exploded and caused a leak that BP had to apologize?
Oh, the not BP movie.
Yeah, exactly.
The not Gulf of Mexico oil spill movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I just say something about this movie? It'll be really quick. Fucking hated that movie. I hated everything about that movie.
You know what was so obnoxious about that movie is how like I feel like he had a hard on for getting the terminology correct. The terminology on, because they talked about pipes so much in that movie. Well, the pipes did this, and then we got to switch the
like the
gears.
One guy in the crowd who actually works on an oil rig is like,
like they got so technical with the verbiage, and they could have even been using it wrong. But all the words were like just jargon to me and just noise. By the time that I think it was like an hour and a half this thing took to freaking finally blow up, and you're like, finally. And then by that point, I didn't care anymore. I hoped everybody died in the movie.
Yeah,
not in real life, in the movie.
Yeah, not in real life. But again, it's about the movie's not about what happened in real life either.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
It's like he couldn't get the rights to history, and he's like, oh, I guess I can't make that movie then.
Yeah.
I'll have to write a different one.
Like making a movie about that type of disaster, about the people that are on the rig, and not so much about all the other stuff that happened in the world at that time. I'm trying to find the equivalent for that. It's kind of like, trying to think of a disaster. Can't even remember. I can't even think of one now. I'm telling you, man, my brain
earthquake,
is not
Haiti hurricane. Haiti gets hit every year or something, yeah.
There you go, boom. Just Hurricane Katrina, and we're focusing on people in DC.
Sure. Yeah.
And you're like, can we focus?
You guys, I don't know if y'all knew the locations of where Katrina was and where DC is. Not same side of the United States, Very south, very east. Yeah.
It's just like, that's not what people were interested in hearing about. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not saying that those people didn't do anything of value, obviously, in a moment of crisis. I would freeze up and just be like, take me, flames. I don't care. But yeah, that's just everything that happened after the fact is just far more interesting. I'm sorry, like it just is. That's so messed up to say. Anyway, Kyle, hit me with an old movie that you watched.
An old movie I watched is something I watched today, and I think it's something you brought up on the podcast already, so we don't have to dwell on it too long. But it is The Batman with Robert Pattinson.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was good.
And Colin Farrell and
it was fine. I kind of get it. I kind of get it why people hate it now. I think
Zosif Katvitz.
Yeah. No, I get why people hate this movie. I get it.
And then Paul Dano with a question mark because he's a Riddler.
They all sucked. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's fine. Movie's too dark. Like, not even visually. Like, I can't see anything in the movie.
No,
literally can't see anything.
I'm basically watching a black screen, so.
Am I watching?
And I just Robert Pattinson. He wears like.
Batman?
It's so weird. His bat suit is just like, I don't know. He just looks like a bat suit. I don't get it. I'm not sure.
It looks like he's wearing hockey pads.
Yeah. No, I fucking love that movie. It's so good. And like, I think the only thing I want to talk about that maybe we didn't bring up, and just more of a statement than a back and forth, but like, I know a lot of people had a problem with like the third act of this movie, and usually I'll say when it's like, well, now there's a lot of me's at like that kind of twist is like, that's fucking dumb. I hate that. I hate it a lot. But like, it so worked with this because like it was going for this like incel, like nutty, online type of like thing where they're getting a group of people together to do some big terrorist act, which hey, everybody, that stuff happens. So like I thought that it's kind of real life applications kind of lent it to it was not eye rolling to me, whereas I think some people didn't remember that was kind of happening in the world at the time and stuff like that, and still and before and all that. So like I just don't have a big problem with that ending at all. In fact, I think it's pretty cool, and I think that that whole ending sequence in the like wherever they are, the theater, the event center, looked very.
It's like a Madison Square Garden or something like that.
Looked extremely expensive to me.
Oh
all the water and all the extras and stuff like that. I'm just looking at it. I'm like, there's a lot of moving parts going on. There's a lot of practical like spark effects and stuff like that. I'm like, there's a lot going on in this scene.
There's also like that feels like the only moment of like noticeable CG is like when he's like hanging, because you're not gonna hang Robert Pattinson high above a stadium or arena for real. Like, I mean, no, we're not gonna do that. So like there are only like a few moments of CG in that sequence, and I'm like, and now that I think about it, I'm like, there was like no other CG in this movie that was that.
Yeah. And I don't even remember the CG that you're talking about, practical. And I just watched it. I just wasn't looking for it, So it snuck on by for me,
Yeah, and that's because it just looks so good. Like,
well, and like you said, it's sparse and fleeting. So
exactly.
Like it's just it's good. The whole fight scene at the end where he's on the catwalks and stuff and just like beating the shit out of people.
So
is just
good.
Awesome.
So good.
It's really good. Can't wait for the Penguin. Can't wait for Batman 2. Can't wait for this whole Reeves universe. I think it's like it's like like it tomorrow they're like, we're canceling MCU. I'm like, well, that sucks. Who's got the Reeves universe? That's pretty cool. We're getting Cape stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. We'll get it somewhere. And I think they're still working on an Arkham series of some kind, but I mean that's kind of like the Dune Sisterhood show where it's like people keep dropping off, and
I don't believe anything that HBO Max or whatever is doing. So we'll see. Yeah,
there is no HBO, only Max.
Yeah.
Stupid. Hey, my new streaming service is called Jeff.
Yeah, I like also they're like, we're doing a Waller series. I'm like, when? They're like, we're doing it. When? Well, here's a teaser. For what? A show that's not going to be out for 6 years? Like, what are you doing? Like, what is this?
That's so true.
They did it with almost all of DC like TV shows. They're like, you remember Peacemaker season 2? Remember that? Probably going to come. What do you mean probably? Well, we're thinking about really doing it. Are you or are you not?
And they wonder why. I bet they're like toiling and wringing their hands, going, why in the world did our stock drop? Well, you like announced 2 things for when the name changes to Max. Yeah. And one of them's like an animated Gremlins thing, and the other one is like Smartless or whatever, which is like a very niche audience loves that. I love Smartless, the podcast. It's very fun, very funny. But like you're talking about launching 2 things, and everything else you showed is 2024 and beyond. What?
And like no dates, no seasons. It's just
not a video game, guys. It's not a video game.
I'm like, well, there are 365 days in that year that you keep on throwing around. Like when When is it coming out exactly? Like
it felt like
this year's like hasn't even kicked off yet. Like what are we doing here?
I know. And like the True Detective just wrapped filming, and I felt like they could have been like fall. Oh, it's coming in fall. Like you could have just said a season, and I would have been content.
That's all I care about. And you know it's coming out. Like you know when it's coming out. Like like you as in they, obviously. But like it's just one of those things where. Why are you being so coy about all this stuff? That was
another aspect that was really frustrating. Is like they handled it like you would an E3, and it's like, guys, this isn't video games. TV shows and movies are supposed to have a faster turnaround. Why are you showing us all this early crap? Like it was very baffling.
Get really excited for this Kate Winslet show that might come out next year. What?
Maybe. I don't know yet.
What? Like, what are you? That looks shot. Like, what are you talking about? It's coming out next year.
And this Robert Downey Jr. Park Chan-wook thing that nobody knew existed, really.
Yeah.
Enjoy this.
What is this? They're like, yeah, that's coming out. When?
Next year, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know. It's in the can. It's coming out. Just come on, guys.
Just pump the brakes.
No, you come
Max.
on.
Max.
Yeah.
And they just say the streaming name over.
Yeah, right. Max. Right. Right, guys.
Anyway, I love the Batman, and I think you can watch it on Max.
You can watch it on Max. Kind of dark.
4K, I think.
It's a dark movie. I'd probably own the movie so you can see those blacks a little better.
Yeah, I have it on 4K Blu-ray. I love that thing.
Looks probably good on that TV on that Blu-ray. Gosh. Yeah, when you're streaming that movie, looks dark. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it looks very dark. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Guys, your bit rates are down if you're streaming, just FYI. So if you got a nice TV
I definitely have no regrets about buying that DVD.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the right Blu-ray 4K player. They're all like $400, and I'm like, I'm not paying that. That's crazy.
Yeah, mine was not. I think I went mid-range because that's how I tend to buy everything. I don't want to buy something that's so low end that it's going to die in a year. I went mid-range. I don't remember how much it was, but it was definitely 400 or less.
Yeah, 400 is what I'm looking at for mid-range stuff. And every once in a while things will go on sale, and I'm just trying to catch something on a sale because I'm tired of watching stuff with all these bunk.
Yeah, Vudu is. I mean, it's great to have everything all in one place that I buy. Yeah. But sometimes I get like that weird streaming filter thing happens where like, a scene messes up a little bit, and I'm like, what the hell was that? Oh, it's streaming. That's streaming, dude.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're watching Dune, you don't hear all the actual music because it's compressed files, brother. Well, not music, but sound design.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's
imagine watching the movie that has some of the best sound design ever, and like you don't even know that you're missing like all the nuances and stuff like that because it's some shitty compressed rate, and suddenly your internet spikes or whatever, and like I don't know. I'm so over.
And then they're all blurry now.
You guys, we backed ourselves into a corner with an all digital future here, and then we might have fucked ourselves a little bit.
Whoops! Just in time for the AI to come in and take over and do all of our voices and make calls for us and get different jobs for us.
Podcast.
But pretty much at one point it's just going to be AI voices just doing this for us.
It's an AI voice doing me going like Star Wars, and yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be fun.
That's true, and me going I don't talk very good. I don't talk.
And every once in a while you'll just go high pitch for no reason. Yeah.
Brother. Anyway, that we're gonna do a pick 5 this week. We got Renfield coming out at the time of this recording. Comes out like tomorrow or Friday or whatever. But Renfield's coming out. Nick Cage plays Dracula in it. So I think the choices were let's do either something vampire related.
Yeah, best vampire movie.
Which we just did like an infected or zombie.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't make sense.
By the way, I have 5 vampire movies right now. I can list off, but I'm not going to.
Me too. Blade 2. No.
Yeah, Blade 3.
Dylon.
Blade the reunion special.
Twilight. Anyway,
shit.
It's all the Twilight movies. Anyway, so we ended up going with best Nick or favorite. Let's put it favorite because they're not the best. But
no. The movies I picked are not the
best. Favorite Nick Cage movies. That's what we're going with because I think our friend, our current Gen podcast co-host Daniel, the streamer, Dapper_Chocobo on Twitch. Go look for him. He has a weird hang up with Nick Cage.
I'll call it cartoonish.
Yeah.
It's a cartoonish hatred.
Like, what do you not understand? When he yells at somebody, it's amazing. That's the gist of it, really.
Yeah. Like, I'm excited when he cages out. Dan, not so much. He's not excited when Cage cages.
You're either in on it or you're not, basically.
Yeah, which I get, I guess.
Yeah.
He's wrong, but I get it. Yeah.
I have the pillow from that Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I don't think I've said this on the podcast, but I have that pillow where it's like you swipe it one way and it's his face, and if you swipe it the other way, it's just a blank pillow. I have that of his Con Air face, where he's stepping out of the plane and it's his hair blowing in the wind.
Yeah, beautiful scene.
And then because I saw Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent early at Draft House, I have one of those things on like a stick where it's just his face, and you can put it in front of your face. So I do actually have a mini Nick Cage shrine of sorts. So I'm biased.
That's not weird.
Just saying I'm biased, guys. I also haven't seen all his movies, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, I'm an expert and I'm the biggest fan. It's just, I just have it for the memes and the lulz at this point. Anyway, hit me with one of your, you know what? Let's just knock one out right now that we both probably have on here.
What's that?
Mandy.
Nah, I didn't put that on there.
You didn't put that on there?
Yeah, it's my favorite. That's my favorite.
Of course, of course.
Not to hijack it, but for my birthday last year, I unconventionally had like people over, and we were having like a dinner and yada yada. And they're like, "Oh, what do you want to do? It's your birthday." I was like, "I'm gonna make y'all all watch this movie." Everybody in the room hated this movie, just mind you. So I wasted like 2 hours of like everybody's time. And like I hyped it up too. I was like, this movie's awesome, dude. It's like an 80s metal band album cover come to life, like in a movie or whatever. And they're like, oh, this sounds really great or whatever. Maybe we should have taken some drugs. I don't know. They hated it. Sober, everybody hated this movie. But I absolutely love this movie. You picked it. Sounds like you like it.
Yes.
This movie's a hardcore vibe, man.
Yeah.
Whole thing just vibing.
In like a metal way, for sure. Like
yeah.
One of the most metal movies ever made.
Well, and like there's like long stretches where there's just no talking. Just vibes, bro. It's just vibes. It's just the way that it's shot, Maybe it's maybe it's him driving in a car, maybe it's him having a freak out in the bathroom, like it's oh
my god, that bathroom freak out scene was so good.
It's the hardest he's ever caged.
Oh my god, he is caging out so hard.
He's at 11 on the cage level. Meter.
Yes. And there are moments in like other movies that we'll bring up where he cages out just like slightly and then he moves on in the scene. No, he has to live in it for like a good few minutes where he's like, oh,
yeah.
And, like,
but it's actually good too. It's not like goofy where you're laughing like he's caging. You're like, he's selling it,
Yeah, exactly. And this guy's gone through something traumatic, so it adds, it tracks, it makes sense. And I also love the way that it's shot in that it feels like they shot it on a really small soundstage because that really sells the claustrophobia of him dealing with his feelings in that moment. He can't escape this grief. He can't escape this trauma.
Yeah. And he's in his underwear, which is like super funny to me. He's like drinking whiskey and like he's in his underwear. Yeah. It's
smoking. He's trying to drown out the feelings with drinking and smoking, but he can't, and he just loses it. And then that obviously leads to the rest of the film, the violence in the rest of the film, which is just amazing.
And it is a revenge flick, boy. And like the whole idea is like there's like these mystical bike riders that have been called on, and the whole thing is like wrapped in like this like regional acid that's being sold that's like way too strong for everybody, and it's making everybody go crazy or whatever. It's a psychedelic weird movie, man. Like it's very, very, very bizarre, which is so funny because all these people I was watching this movie with have done acid a lot of times, so I'm just like, this is gonna be a fucking slam dunk, Everybody hated it. It's funny. I don't think this is an easy to hate movie. I think like this is a real, like, this is legitimately a good movie.
Yeah.
So just maybe it's a little too art house for some. I don't know.
Insanely well. That could be a thing because the art house vibes of it. It's very slow at times. There are long shots of just like we just said, where it's just music,
like weird synth
and vibes. Yeah. Like it's kind of reminds me of pretty much everything Stanley Kubrick did in Clockwork Orange, where like he has no problem just lingering on a shot and just having a synth go wow wow wow, and everybody's like, "Can you take me out of the scene, please? This is highly uncomfortable."
No, you're staying. You're staying here.
You're staying
20 more minutes on this scene.
But Mandy like takes it to the next level. But when it delivers on him caging out or those crazy violent moments, it feels like it adds weight to it almost. Like you're kind of like waiting for it the whole movie. And there's world building too, There's some really interesting world building, which I really like. And like it's very video gamey at moments too. Like he crafts or creates his own like legendary weapon or whatever.
his axe or whatever, you know, and has a chainsaw fight with someone in like all metal armor, you know, like
doesn't he have like a Mad Max car too, where it's like
ridiculous? And it's interesting because we were just talking about Babylon being kind of like the movie Babylon being kind of like this movie about being on a trip, like an acid trip or something like that, or a drug trip, and the stages of what that's like. And this movie is very similar, you know, because as the trip continues to kick in all movie, the movie gets weirder and weird. It's a crescendo of weirdness until like by the end of it, he's basically in a fantasy world. We started the movie in the real world, you know, or, you know, a semblance of the real world. And as it just keeps going and all these new elements are created and introduced and stuff like that, especially once the acid portion of the movie like kicks in, it's just interesting, that crescendo effect that happens in that movie, and just how unhinged and crazy not only he gets, but just everything in that movie gets. I think there is like I'll suck your dick. You want me to suck your dick, man? I'll suck your, like, it's very MacGruber, isn't it? At the very end of the movie. Yeah,
and it's the fact that it's Nick Cage.
Yeah, like... I remember laughing so hard at that part just because it just reminds me of MacGruber.
Yeah, exactly, because we've seen that thing, and I'll let you fuck me on MacGruber.
I'll let you fuck me.
Tell me what you want me to fuck. Yeah,
because so like good. He just witnessed like Nick Cage killing like hundreds of his like lackeys or whatever, so it's like he's kind of just pleading the best way he can.
Oh man,
it's good.
I highly recommend the director's other movie. I think it's Panos is his name, Panos Cosmatos or something. Great name, by the way.
I need to double back and check that out.
Yeah, I think it's called Beyond the Black Rainbow. I did watch it. Similar vibes. Very similar vibes.
Speaking of similar vibes, the Cabinet of Curiosities episode that he did.
Yes, very. It is very much him, and that is my favorite episode of that.
My favorite hour of TV last year, for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh, incredible.
It's another one where I'm like, I gotta show somebody this, and I showed one person this, and they're like, yeah, okay, and I'm like, this is for me.
Yeah,
I just need to stop. Just need to shop stuff. Like, this is for me. I need to stop seeking approval. You know, like, hey, look at this cool thing I found. Don't you think it's cool? No? Oh, okay. I'll just keep stuff for me, I guess.
True. That's
the weirder, the better. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's, you know what, that's totally fair with weird crap like this.
Yeah, and I'm specifically speaking to like sharing weird stuff.
Yeah.
Weird stuff is such a hard sell to some people.
Yeah, like a movie like A Good Person, easier sell. Even though it's traumatic things in it, easier sell.
It's an easier sell for sure. Yeah.
There's everyday stuff in it, you know?
Yeah. Oh man. I'm gonna watch that episode after we're done. I love that.
Oh, that's a great episode, yeah.
God, it's too
great cast too. I can't remember who else is in it, but like I remember
Steve Agee and
that's right.
Eric Andre and
yes.
Somebody
was it Carrie? No, it wasn't Carrie Elwes. It was damn it. There's somebody.
What's her face? The small Asian. She's like the silly Asian girl from like silly Asian. What does it mean to say? She's goofy in the movie Knocked Up. It's like, oh, finger, like, you know, babies with like fingernail, like, you know what I'm talking about? She's like the Asian girl in that movie.
Awkwafina?
Not Awkwafina, no. This is like way before that. This is Knocked Up, the movie.
I don't know why I said that.
It was like 15 years before her time.
I know. She's like not born yet.
Yeah.
That was a different time, dude.
Let's talk about different actors, brother.
Fingernails. God damn. Who is that? Charlene Yee. I think it's Charlene Yee. Yeah.
Might be. I don't know.
Yeah. She's like, you're talking about the one who's like very,
yeah. She's like a stoner chick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lives with them in the house over there.
Yeah. She's so funny.
She's like a smart McPants in that episode. So.
Yeah.
And what's her face? The girl that I always call the girl with the butt chin, the French girl. Like, that's the girl with the chin, dude. I think she's beautiful, by the way.
Chin girl.
Boy, yeah, she's got a chin on her. I'll tell you.
Now I gotta look this episode up. This is a great episode.
Yeah.
Of Curiosities. It's a anthology show that Guillermo del Toro like presented, similar to Twilight Zone or whatever.
Yeah.
The episode is called The Viewing. Yeah. I'm not going to give any details on what it's about because that's
no.
That's part of what you need to experience.
Not knowing where that episode was going was such a treat. It's
Peter Weller. That's who it is. That was like the main guy who was like kind of distributing all the drugs and like he's the rich guy.
He's great.
Yeah. Sophia Boutella, the French girl. Yeah,
the girl with the chin. Yeah.
Yeah, the climax, the girl from the movie Climax who dances her little heart out. It's a very wholesome movie.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
It definitely wasn't on my list of movies you can only watch once, I found.
Yeah. I'm glad we crossed Mandy off the list. I kind of categorized some of my picks as like in different categories. Like this one is like the most Nick Cage. It's still also a great movie, but this is like the most Nick Cage. Nick Cage is out, basically. Yeah. That's my pick for that one. The next one I have is 90s Nick Cage. And I mean quintessential action, corny 90s Nick Cage, and that's Con Air for me.
I'm so glad you said this because I didn't put Con Air on mine, but I love this movie.
You do love it? Okay, good, because it depends. It depends for some people. Some people are like, that movie is god-awful trash.
I feel like people like, that movie's obviously not to be taken seriously. You know what I mean? Sure. And I feel like some people walk into it going, this is going to be some high-stakes action movie, and it's like, no. That's The Rock, which we'll get to later. What you're looking for, what you're trying to see here is it's a silly movie that's an all-star cast and everyone acting at 11 or whatever. There is not a single real person in this movie.
Right.
None of these people, not even John Cusack's character would exist in real life. These are all just over the top like crazy people.
Just insane. And what I love about this one is that this is Nick Cage having to be like kind of reserved and like doing this really, really fake, unplaceable Southern accent.
I'm from Alabama. I'm just a good old Alabama boy or whatever.
Put the bunny back. Like that's kind of how I want to do the impression of him.
I feel like somebody like nicely, like he was just jokingly doing it on set, and they're like, that's pretty good. And he's just like, we should make that the voice. And they're like, I don't know. And they're like, no, we should make that the voice. And Nick Cage like kind of bullied everybody because he got one compliment one time that he had an okay Southern accent, but they were just being nice. It's actually awful.
You can't tell me Nick Cage with that hair and him coming out of I think he was coming off the bus and his hair was like flapping in the wind and he's like smiling. That's what my pillow is. He's like smiling at the sunset. You can't tell me a movie with that shot in it is serious. There's nothing serious in this movie.
Well, and you know how many soldiers just getting back from like leave who accidentally beat up a couple people who aggressed on him? You know how often they go to jail? Never. That would never in a million years. He would be court-martialed, need to go to like military, maybe,
Maybe, yeah.
But like you wouldn't go to like regular people jail
with a person like Cyrus.
Property. That's not how any of that works.
Come on. Yeah.
So the whole premise is like a falsehood. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like, it's so funny that people like walk in going like, yeah, I don't know, it's just super corny. I'm like, no, that's the ingredient is corny.
Yeah,
like, you're picking up on the ingredient.
And it could have only been made when it was made. It was like 94, 95 or whatever. I saw it in the theater once, and I was like, that at the time, because I was a kid, that was the best movie I've ever seen. I was just so floored by when the plane landed in Vegas. It was just
that was awesome. Like a fun Air Force One,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Air Force One is for dads and grandpas.
Yeah.
And Con Air is for dummies like me.
Air Force One feels like a failed Tom Clancy script.
It's a little bit. Give me back my family. Get off my
get off my fucking plane. Which I'm sure as a pilot he has said before, so.
He actually, that's when he learned how to pilot, dude. That was a different time, though.
That's a different time, dude. Now he just crashes planes all the time.
I did actually rewatch that movie because I remember watching it with like my dad or whatever. It was like a guy's movie. We watched it in the theater once, and I was like, oh, it's okay. And then I watched it again as an adult like 3 years ago, and I was like, yeah, it's still okay. Like I
like it. I think I've always liked it, but like it's not fun. Like it's like it's trying to take itself so seriously. I'm like, it's a movie about fucking.
Come on, like you're having fights, like you gotta walk out to the wing and go to the other plane. What?
Yeah, no, this movie, ridiculous. Like Con Air is way more fun than Air Force One, and it like knows what it is, and like
you're not gonna cast Steve Buscemi as like some weird child predator who's got a mask.
He's the guy everyone's afraid of on the plane. Yeah, Steve Buscemi like in a fucking Hannibal mask, like it's
and you're not gonna cast Dave Chappelle of all people in this movie if you're gonna want to be taken serious. It's just not a serious movie, and that's what I love about it. Hit me with you mentioned The Rock. Do you want to talk?
That's a 90s action movie. Yeah, let's just go to that one. Absolutely. This is probably my actual favorite Nick Cage movie.
Oh, sweet.
I like this movie a lot. I think this movie is a fantastic action movie, not even just like a great Nick Cage movie or whatever. This is like Sean Connery, like being at his pinnacle of cool to me. When I was growing up, like Sean Connery was always like the cool guy or whatever. He's so cool in this movie. Ed Harris is a great bad guy. The all-star cast in this movie is great. The amount of one-liners that could only exist in a 90s movie. Like it's because it's a pretty serious movie. It's about like a terrorist attack that's like, I'm a military dude who's gone so crazy because of the way we've been treated, and I'm willing to kill whole towns full of people with like, I don't know, the worst gas ever created that just like, I don't know, makes you bubbly and die really painfully.
Yeah.
And I thought it was, I just think it's like it's a super fun, pretty high stakes movie, I would say, you know, in terms of like, there's like a ticking time clock. They're trying to get to all these missiles in time and destroy, you know, like the little chips so they can't shoot off and everything like that. There's a sense of urgency in the movie. Like all the SEAL teams get killed like immediately. And one of my favorite action scenes of all time when they're in the bathroom and like, you know, oh, they have that. Like, it's so good. Call of Duty like totally ripped it off.
Yes.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
So like it's just a good scene, you know. Bean, Mr. Tyler Bean, Ed Bean, what's his name? Tyler. It's Tyler. Is it Tyler Bean?
Wait, what?
The guy from Terminator. He's in this movie too.
Oh, is he? Oh gosh. Are you talking about? Yeah, he was like Ed Harris'
Kyle
second
Reese,
in command, right?
Terminator. Yeah.
Michael Bean.
Michael Bean. There we go.
Yeah, something like that. Kyle Reese is the character. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
You're talking about like the first. In the first like Terminator. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. That's Michael Bean.
Because he was like the second. Wasn't he Ed Harris' second in command and? Then he was
he was the leader of the SEAL team. He was the leader of the SEAL team that was going in to stop Ed Harris.
That's right.
He gets all of his people killed because
they were having a standoff. Yes.
Yeah, they're having a super intense standoff. You know.
Yeah, that's a great.
And I go back to the one-liners. I think I say it like at least once a week, where like Nick Cage is like, we're gonna do our best. Like Sean Connery's like, your best, you know, like he's like, your best is something that losers talk about, you know, the winners go home and fuck the prom queen, you know, or something like that. It's such a bizarre line that you would say like in the middle of a high stakes mission or whatever. But like that's the 90s, baby. Like that's what it was all about. For like sure. Con Air is 90%, you know, like just like quips and and quick things or whatever. And like this was just that era of kind of like action movies where you're just trying to inject in as many Arnold Schwarzeneggerisms as you could.
Yes.
And I was here for it, you know. I super liked that movie a lot. Harry Gregson Williams does this movie. This movie's got big Metal Gear Solid vibes, not just because of music, but because of you know, I'm sneaking in to a military base via a submarine and I'm going to take down a bunch of terrorists who are threatening to kill the world with like nuclear warfare. So literally the story of Metal Gear Solid. I mean, all those things happen in The Rock. That's literally the story of Metal Gear Solid 1. So it's like
Michael Bay is like, I'm a genius. I came up with this.
I inspired Hideo Kojima to make a game 2 years later or whatever.
Exactly. Just don't fact check. I inspired it though.
Yeah, I inspired. He came to my house and I told him, yeah, you could use my movie.
I think the line that I go to the most, at least in my head, during like work meetings and stuff, is "cut the chit chat, a-hole."
A-hole.
Like when people just the way that he breaks up the line, where it sounds incredibly unnatural, but it's so hilarious.
He's got all the guns now, sir. You know, I don't know. It's great. I like the other thing where it's like he's got a gun, and the other guy in the other line to Nick Cage is like, "And what do you have, a fucking water pistol?" And he cocks it. He's like, "No, sir." You know, in this Nick Cagey way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie's great. Oh, and the other line of that movie at the end of the prom queen thing, he goes, Carla was the prom queen. That's like his wife or whatever.
Yeah,
That's him trying to be a badass. And he's like a geek. He's like like...
He is. He's like a numbers
guy. He's a nerdy,
like
FBI geek who like shouldn't be there. Fish out of water type of thing.
He's not really a numbers guy, literally, but you know what I mean. He could be an accountant somewhere.
Yeah, he's a desk guy, yeah.
And he's just a scientist who knows the weapon, right? Isn't that what his role is?
Yeah, exactly.
So he doesn't know anything about this being a smooth badass. I can't believe Sean Connery even actually agreed. Even in the 90s, I can't believe Sean Connery agreed.
It's so cool. So Sean Connery, this is actually one of the movies he enjoyed the most that he was ever part of. And
That's awesome.
That movie went way over budget. Like way over budget. And like I forgot who did it. I think Disney was a subsidiary or something like that. I forget who did this movie. But whoever was like the main, they're like, we can't give you any money. And Sean Connery literally calls the money people and goes, hey, this kid, as in Michael Bay, he's like, this movie's really good, and you should give him all the money that he was asking for. And they fucking wrote him a check, man.
Wow. That's incredible. I didn't know that story. That's
very really Matrix vibes, where it's like, someone had to speak up for the movie.
Yeah, they showed like the opening of the movie to the studio, and
they blew the whole budget on the opening of the movie.
Here you go. Here's a blank check. I mean, that was amazing. Here you go.
Yeah. Sometimes
you can tell at the opening of the movie of the Matrix is actually what they shot and showed the studio. Like you can tell because the set design looks totally different. The way they shot it looks different. Trinity looks different. Everybody looks a little different in that intro of the Matrix movie. Whereas the rest of the movie just feels wider in scope and less soundstagey and stuff. very interesting. Anyway, The Rock's great. It was one that I watched once as a kid, and then you and I started talking again after high school, and you brought it up many times, and I was like, okay, I got to watch this again. And then I've seen it probably 3 more times since then.
It's just stupid fun.
It's just so fun. It's so fun. Yeah.
They have like a whole like car chase in the middle of San Francisco for no reason.
It's true. It is for no reason.
They're like the terrorists are attacking like tomorrow, and they're like, let's have this speed chase real quick. I'm like, all right, whatever.
All right. My next pick, I'm gonna go with. Let's call this category underrated. Nick Cage, and it's in more ways than one is it underrated because it's also underrated Martin Scorsese. And if you tell people that there's a Martin Scorsese movie with Nick Cage in it, you'll be like, there is?
Yeah, I'm leaning forward to hear the needle drop, so I can be like, yeah, I know that movie, or go, what?
What? Bringing Out the Dead. Have you seen this
movie?
movie?
Okay. Yeah, no, I've never seen this movie. I know about it though. I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
It's great, man. It's on Paramount Plus. I don't know if it's part of Paramount Plus or Showtime because I have the package that includes both. Mm-hmm. But that's where it is now. But I watched it a while ago when I was just going through Martin Scorsese's like entire filmography, and I still have a few that I haven't been able to catch somewhere online. Like there's one that has like a weird title, and I'm not watching your Rolling Stone documentaries. I'm sorry, I'm not. But there's a few that I haven't seen. But anyway, Bringing Out the Dead was like one of the last ones I watched, and this is like. Man, this movie is like a mile a minute. It is. It's about Nick Cage plays like an EMT ambulance worker, but he works the third shift. So he suffers from insomnia and stuff, and he's constantly having to do drugs to stay awake and stuff like that. So a lot of what he's doing, kind of starts to, as the movie goes along, kind of starts to blur. The reality lines start to blur a little bit. Like he's not really sure what's real and what's not at some point.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's also apparently, I need to watch the movie again to fully explain it, but I think he's traumatized by a certain patient that he didn't save, and then he's become jaded by his job. Like he's just like not as interested. His heart's not in it anymore. Hence all the drugs and stuff like that. But the movie is like, if you watch it, it's shot similar to how, kind of reminds me of some of the stuff he did in Gangs of New York, where there are some shots where it's like the camera's doing like a weird movement. And it's because it's like the opening action scene in Gangs of New York. That's the entire freaking movie of Bringing Out it's like so stressful and just high octane and just constantly going because it's trying to capture how this dude does not let up, like in his job. Like he just does not let up. And that's why it's called Bringing Out the Dead, because he's an EMT worker who just sucks at his job. He just fails at saving people. But there's more stakes to that. I just need to watch it again to refresh completely. But I remember being kind of blown away by this movie because I was like, finished it and I was like, nobody talks about this movie. What the hell?
No, I don't. I know of this movie, but I have never heard of anybody say anything about it. So.
It's good. It's really good. I was kind of floored, honestly. Like, I just didn't look up anything about it. And then obviously in our circles online, social media, whatever, our curated feeds, everybody talks about the movies that you know, like Goodfellas, stuff like that. So, or the Nick Cage's movie that you know, like the Face Off or whatever. They talk about the Nick Cage movies that you know, the Scorsese movies that you know. So like this one is kind of just slipped away, but it is one of the better ones. Almost like Scorsese makes good movies. I don't know. It's a novel thing.
I've never heard of the guy, so I'll take your word for it.
Cinema. What's another one of yours?
You just said it. I was gonna do this one next, but since you just said it, we're just gonna roll right into Face Off because you know what? It might be one. Classic. It might be one we're all talking about, Jeff. That's because it's the best. Yeah, that's why everyone talks about it. Now this movie's dumb. So dumb.
Capital D, capital
E,
capital M.
This movie is dumb, and I love it. I love everything about it. Saw this movie in theaters. I remember this is like one of the first movies my dad was like, because he's kind of a movie guy. He doesn't like good movies, but like he showed me movies and he goes to movies and like he's interested in seeing action movies and stuff like that. And he was, for whatever reason, giddy to show me this movie. It's like this and Braveheart were like the two movies where he's like, boy, I got something I'm about to show you, you know? He was right about both of them, just FYI. Because I like both of those movies growing up. And I was a kid. Like he took me, these are 90 movies, I couldn't have been older than 10 for this movie. This is 95, I think. Braveheart's like 94, 96, something like that,
So this was a movie that I would have been too young to see at the time that it came out. But it was like one of those things where like once it came out to home video, my parents were like, okay, if you cover your eyes during the parts that are quote unquote offensive or R-rated.
I'm not too much older than you, so I was too young to see these movies too. My dad this is his rebellion. I'm sure I've told this story before, but he would he didn't like that I was Catholic. My mom was raising me Catholic, not Catholic, because that's crazy these days. But he would take me out of Sunday school to go watch rated R movies in this really weird act of like teenage rebellion that he was going through, not me. I don't know what's going on. So we would go watch rated R movies and stuff like that. And this was one movie that he was just so stoked to show me. I
know they weren't consecutive, but to have like in the same decade Con Air, Face Off, and the other one you just mentioned, The Rock.
Yeah.
What the hell?
It's a lot of high octane, action or whatever. This is another one that's like, it starts off where you're like, oh yeah, all right, this guy's kid just died, let's I could see the rivalry building up here, but it gets so dumb so quick and like in very entertaining ways. These are not criticisms. This is like John Woo going, hey, I've been making some pretty good movies over in China. Maybe if someone gave me a lot of money, I'd be able to make a really cool like American action movie. And he did. It's like really high concept in a really dumb way. They change each other's faces, but their entire bodies change too somehow.
And their voices are
and nobody ever like questions anything. You know what I mean? Like if you and I switched bodies, Jeff, and I like went to go hang out with your parents, they would know within seconds. They're like, dude, there's something wrong with you. You're not acting like Jeff at all. Here's a guitar, play it. I'd be like, I don't fucking know how to do it. So it's like it's so preposterous that they both get away with this for this entire movie. But there's so many great action sequences.
Like it's hard. I don't fucking know.
I fucking know how to do that. I'm like holding it upside down. Oh man. There's so many great like John Woo-isms in terms of like doves and like akimbo pistol fights and it's just crazy, Hong Kong action cinema. But we have Nick Cage and John Travolta there, kind of holding them down. And they are chewing scenery because you get 2 cages. Really, you get like 4 cages in this movie. You get Cage being Cage, you get Cage being Travolta, you get Travolta being Cage, and you get, whatever, just 3. But that's a lot. That's too many cages for a movie. Yeah. But you get so many flavors of it, and they're doing such ridiculous impressions of each other. It's dumb. You know what I mean?
I really sensed that behind the scenes as they were filming, like they probably didn't talk with each other about it, but they were like, I'm gonna try and one up.
Yeah, I 1000% think this. Yeah. And like every scene where
they're constantly trying to one up each other with ridiculous impressions.
All right, John kind of killed the last scene. We're gonna do a scene with you now, and he's like, I'm gonna nail this scene, and he's just hate to watch you go, love to watch you leave when he's talking to his wife or whatever. Dude, Cajun so hard. It's something about suck my tongue or whatever, in the beginning. So many cageisms, dude. This movie's it's so good, dude. I like it so much. I like it like where they're standing on like opposite sides of the wall. Like, what are we gonna do? He's like, I don't know. I guess we're just gonna kill each other, and they turn around and both shoot each other in the mirror. Like, it's so ridiculous in its imagery. Like it's so over the top, and it's like you didn't have to have a mirror there. You could have just been on opposite sides of the wall. But no, you have to see each other. It has to be so extra. Everything about this movie is so extra. And if you don't think this movie ends in a giant boat chase, like every 90s action movie had to for some reason, you'd be wrong, because this movie ends in a huge boat chase. That ends in them trying to cut each other's faces off. 10 out of 10. Love this movie.
Yeah, I love this movie to pieces, dude. It's great. And it is one that is kind of similar to The Rock, where like I vaguely remembered it from childhood and adolescence, and then I watched it way more as an adult. I think I rewatched this one more than The Rock, though, because it's just there's something about it that's just like, I can't wait to watch that one again. It's so dumb, and I can't wait to experience it again. So my next one I'll put in the category of Nick Cage is in this movie, but he's not the lead or anything. He's just in this movie, and it's really great. And that's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Okay,
yeah. And don't get me wrong, his role is fantastic. It's probably the most laughs I got from Spider-Noir.
When he said he wasn't coming for the sequel, I go,
he's not. Yeah,
I was bummed. Like,
really
bummed. I liked that part of that movie.
Considering there are like millions of Spider-Men in the next movie, I'm like, oh, it's weird you couldn't make room for him.
It's funny if he plays other Spider-Man though. He's like, I'm not reprising my role as Spider-Man Noir, but he's like in the movie as 20 other Spider-Men. I'm like, you asshole, you lied to us.
That would be really perfect, actually. But yeah, I just love this movie so much. Every single time I watched it, I've seen it. It came out in like 2018. I've probably seen it like, I don't know, 10 times now, with family, without. I just get something out of it each time I watch it, about self-worth and stuff like that. Because it is really ultimately about, it's a journey about that, like accepting your place in life and confidence and stuff like that. Sure, those are broad topics, but yeah, what Nick Cage brings to the role, though, nobody else could have voiced that character. Like,
yeah.
Similar to John Mulaney and Spider Pig, nobody else could have done that character. Like,
hey, everybody! Oh my god, I love that. I forgot
so
about that bit. Yeah,
yeah. He's got why are your hands sweaty? It's so ridiculous.
Don't worry, it's just water. Yeah. I think that's one of the best superhero movies ever.
Oh, absolutely, one of the best ones ever made, without question. Animated or live action does not matter.
Man, across all of it.
What was the item that he was so obsessed with? Was it a Rubik's cube?
Yeah, that's it's all colorful. So when he brought it back, he was all bummed that there's no colors on it. Yeah. He's like, oh, I like how sad he was. That made me laugh. Yeah.
But it's great. He just talks in colloquialisms that make no sense. It's amazing. I just love it so much. I think it's great. Somewhere on streaming, I'm sure. I think on Netflix or something. It's always on a streaming service. That's another great thing about this movie.
It would be on Disney Plus if Sony,
got their head out of their booties. Yeah.
Right, up easy in their paycheck. Be like, hey, we want to take your movie that you own and put it on our streaming service and pay you money for it all the time. And Sony's like,
money, you say?
It's okay.
We're gonna do Morbius too.
I think
How
we're
about
gonna
that?
do Kraven the Hunter. I think we're gonna do that movie instead. with the guy who took his wife's last name, that guy. Okay,
yeah.
Great. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Be a modern man, everybody. That's totally okay. But for him, I'm going to make fun of him.
But be a modern man with like a modern woman and not somebody who's like 40 years older than you. I'm just saying it's a little weird.
He got groomed. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, he got groomed. It's no big deal, guys. It's just grooming. It's just minor grooming.
Little boys can get groomed by older ladies too, okay? That's just how it is.
It's just minor grooming. And by that I mean minors. They're grooming minors.
Yeah, by grooming minors, yeah.
Yeah, I don't mean minor as in a little bit.
She's probably a sweet lady, and we're just.
I don't know. We're just piling on like Twitter does. I remember when they separated.
I think it's because I'm mad that I like.
I
think it's because I'm mad that I like him as an actor now, and I can't just take it out on him. So like I'm like, well, his dumb bitch wife is probably awful.
You did have to make a 180 on him.
I have to project somewhere. If I can't put it on him, it's got to be. It's got to be someone that hurts him.
I know. Sony also was like, you know what? Instead of your infinite money, Disney, I am going to make a Madam Web movie. How about that? With all hot...
no one asked for, with so many hot girls in it that it makes my head spin. And you know what? The movie's gonna suck so hard.
It's gonna be so bad.
And not like in a sexy way, in like the movie's bad type of way.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be so bad. I'm sorry, it just is.
And that was our comic book hate corner.
Yeah, exactly. Just wait until DC comes up at some point.
Yeah.
Hey, Ghost Rider is a piece of shit, right? That's okay. That's enough comic book hate. All right, so
sorry, yeah. Oh, that was Nick Cage. That's on topic.
That was Nick Cage. Yeah, both of them.
There were two of those. Can I just say those movies complete fucking garbage.
Just the worst. And then the second one, I was like, oh, this is their chance to turn it around. Nope, wrong. It's
oh my god, garbage. The Crank guys are on this one. This is gonna be great. No,
wrong.
And I like Crank. I'm a huge fan. I even like Crank 2. That's how crazy I am.
Oh, dude, I like them. Yeah. Love is a strong word, but I really, really like those movies. Yeah.
I really like is where I'm at. Maybe love is crazy, but yeah.
Love might be a little crazy because there's some stuff in it.
I don't know. I'll tell you what I do love. I love the kaiju scene in the second movie where they're both they're in the power plant and like it's like a kaiju Jason Statham.
Yeah.
He's in a kaiju outfit and he's fighting another guy in a kaiju outfit or whatever. And it's stupid. And I'm like, this is so dumb. This is literally my favorite thing in the entire world, but that's fine.
Anyway, what's another one of you?
Mine is
say again? You have two left or one left?
Two left.
Okay, gotcha.
Mine's an 80s classic. It's maybe my first Nick Cage movie. It's maybe my first Coen Brothers movie.
Ooh.
Maybe my first John Goodman movie. It's maybe my first movie for a lot of people in this movie on a lot of elements that I've gotten introduced to, and it's Raising Arizona. I think this movie is absolutely fantastic. I still watch this movie to this day. I think it's super hilarious. I think it's kind of charming too about this family who's trying to start a family but go about it in just like every wrong way possible. I think it's super silly. There's a scene that me and my dad quote to each other all the time where he goes and like robs a store, but it's just for like diapers. He's not like a bad guy or anything like that. He's just trying to get diapers, even though I think they both are criminals, but whatever. That's not what the movie's about. So he gets in the cab and he's like, hey, can you drive? And the guy's like bewildered that he's wearing like just like a girl's panty on his head instead of like, like a ski mask or something like that. and he just goes, "Boy, you've got a panty on your head," and like my dad and I will just out of context say that to each other all the time. Boy, you've got a panty on your head. And maybe that's the only reason I love this movie. It's just that memory. So no, I absolutely kidding. I absolutely love this movie.
I was gonna say it's actually
this is
really
a good.
Great,
this is a great Coen Brothers, like early Coen Brothers movie. Like this really cemented kind of like their comedy style and stuff like that. What's his face is very very young in this movie. Nick Cage, and John Goodman is very memorable in this movie as well. And it kind of ends in like this big like biker scary guy type of confrontation or whatever. But it's always kind of heartwarming because it's all about like kind of protecting this kid, and it's kind of heartwarming in its own way too because like they end up falling in love with this kid that's totally not their kid. They kind of kidnap it or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good movie. I really like it. It's probably again the very first Nick Cage movie I ever saw, and it's something that's stuck with me all these years.
I didn't actually watch it until Dan just shared the thumbnail of our episode. It's really funny.
Yeah.
I didn't actually watch that movie until you and I were doing the tournament. I think it was the tournament episode or podcast that we were doing. And that year, 87, 88, whatever year it was, we were doing a tournament for that, and Raising Arizona was on the list, and that was the first time I watched it. So that had to have been 2018, 2017. It's the first time I watched it.
Oh, yeah.
I think I've seen it a couple more times since then because it's just so good. It's Coen Brothers, man. The Coen Brothers.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
almost
movie.
Flawless filmmakers. I mean,
yeah,
they got a great batting average.
It's like pre-Barton Fink, This is like, John Goodman wasn't like the guy from Roseanne yet, Like these, not that he was nobody. I'm not saying that, but like, these are a lot of, the big showcase for a lot of people who really became somebody.
Yeah. And this is before Nick Cage is like, oh, he's Nick Caging out. This is before all that.
Yeah, yeah. You didn't really have a legacy of watching him cage out. So like, watching him be so eccentric in this movie was kind of like novel and unique at that time.
Yeah, that and Moonstruck was very similar, which I think came out a couple of years after, or if not the year after that. That Cher movie, which was even more acclaimed. I think he might have even gotten nominated for an Oscar for that. It's a great movie though, dude. Coen Brothers are just like iconic. Like, like I almost said Hall of Rushmore, Mount Rushmore of like
they're the Hall of
directors.
Rushmore fame. Yeah,
it's the hall where there's like a bunch of Rushmores and you got to pick 4 faces for each Rushmore. And
exactly. Yeah.
Which like just
the hall
just totally saturates the meaning of Rushmore. Like. Anyway, my last one that I have is one that I just rewatched the other day, and I knew I wanted to pick it because I remember loving it the first time I watched it. I guess you could put it under underrated. I don't even know. This is category free. Let's just whatever. It's Matchstick Men. It's another one.
Pick this one, so I saved this one for last because I figure you're gonna get to it.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, it's on my list too.
This one is it's another underrated one for a director. I think Ridley Scott is not thought of as a director for this movie, like because he's got
to barely think of him as a director, to be honest. So that's kind of funny.
Jesus. Yeah. It's just his style nowadays. I don't know. This Matchstick Men just kind of has a very distinct.
Well, we're talking about the guy who made like Blade Runner and Kingdom of Heaven, and like so many like weird not weird, but like big blockbusters that like that splash big or fail big or something along of that nature, And for him to pull out something like this is so unique and unordinary for his career.
Right.
I don't even think I think every time I only talk about movies with you really that you bring up that's a Ridley Scott movie, I go, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, very much so.
It's just so grounded.
I forget every single time I forget about it,
He's usually such a high concept director, at least on a genre level, where it's like, oh, this is either a big action movie, a big historical drama, and there's really no in between, or like a big sci-fi horror.
Yeah, sometimes he really likes to go back to his old classics and ruin them with new versions of it. It's pretty cool.
Exactly. Can't wait.
And Blade Runner is not the movie I'm talking about there, brother. All right.
Hold on a minute. That was a different director, dude.
Shit. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, thank goodness he handed the reins over to Denny V.
Yeah.
But this movie's freaking incredible, and this is very cagey. Like very, it's cagey. He's not cagey. In the sense that we use it today in regular language, I mean he's Nick Cage. Nick Cagey. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. Because cagey actually means something. But he is very extra Nick Cage in this movie because he plays somebody that has Tourette's, and sometimes he gets a little over the top, especially when he's having an episode of sorts. Like when he's out of medication, he goes to the pharmacy and he's doing all the ticks and everything. And he's being very shouty because everything's very urgent to him in this panic attack episode. And then like I think a guy, just an innocent bystander, comes up to him and he's like, "Hey man, you need to cut, get in line. You're just cut in front of all these people." And he goes, "How about I make you piss blood?" It's like the most Nick Cage delivery of the line.
Yeah. It's funny because this movie's actually kind of like sweet in some moments, and an actual real movie, which sometimes a Cage movie doesn't feel like it's a real thing. It kind of just feels like a Nick Cage vessel.
Because it's him and Sam Rockwell are con artists, and then this he starts to go to therapy because he's been having some problems getting his he's been getting his prescription for all of his ailments on the side illegally. So he actually had to officially go to a doctor to get a prescription. And along the way through therapy, he reached out to his daughter, who I don't think he knew that he had at the time, because when he left his wife, she was pregnant. So he didn't know that she actually like followed through, whatever. So I think that's how the story goes, is like his doctor reached out to her on his behalf, which would never happen. No, that's immediately movie note number one, is like, nope, that would never happen. But there's a reason for that. It's explained later in the plot. It's a typical con artist movie, meaning when something happens at the end, you see it coming as an audience member, even if the main character can't. Anyway, he's got a long lost daughter that comes into play. She's allegedly 14. I think the actor is 24 when she played the role, but again, there's more to the story, so just let it play out. It's really good, man. It's just really, really good.
I love all the twists and
turns. I love the way it's directed, and like when he's going through one of his manic episodes, like the directing and the camera work mirror that. And I love the lighting of it's such a simple thing, but the lighting of this movie is like, it's a very deliberate choice. Like I feel like Ridley Scott doesn't. I mean, depending on the movie, I guess he kind of doesn't really do that a whole lot. Like The Martian, I don't remember having a very distinct lighting pattern, but this one's got a lot of blues in it. And like a lot of like dim yellows and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Ridley Scott's not usually a director I associate with like color theming and stuff like that.
Yeah, unless it's like an alien movie, then it's all gray and black, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then there's some whites, like the weird alien thing of Prometheus. We don't talk about that crap here, though. But yeah, Nick Cage.
Why did they just run to the side whenever the thing was falling over?
Just run to the side.
You could literally run not the way you're running, and you wouldn't get hit by that thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and she still died. She deserved it at that point.
Yeah, they all kind of deserved it. Man.
Yeah, they all did it. Yeah. Hey, nothing's wrong here. We can just take off our helmets. It's no big deal.
Yeah. Right. No, I really like in the
planet we've totally never been to. Let's just take off our helmets.
I like about in the sequel where the two robots are talking to each other for way too long, and I'm like, this is the most uninterested I think I've ever been watching a movie.
They're playing flute together and
yeah. It's so stupid. I think they really thought that was supposed to be something like really strong. I think Ridley Scott was sitting there going like, this is really going to resonate with people. It's really going to make people think, and it made me think about turning off the movie for sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's Ridley Scott hate corner. All right.
Yeah, Ridley Scott is. I mean, at least The Last Duel was really great, but that's all I got.
Yeah, I like that movie a lot, actually.
Yeah.
And I like Kingdom of Heaven a lot. Sometimes he hits. I like Blade Runner, man. I mean, this guy's got some pillar movies behind him, but
definitely.
Like, he's not someone I tend to associate with like smart movie making, even though a lot of movies we just mentioned are pretty smart movies. Also,
he did make. The same year as Last Duel, he released House of Gucci, and we can't forgive him for that. We just can't.
I didn't see it, yeah, so...
Well, I mean, all you need to know is Jared Leto is doing a Mario impression the whole movie. It's a me, Paolo! Yeah. It's just comical.
No. I was out whenever Lady Gaga did, like, the sign of the cross, but, like, ended in Gucci instead of whatever, and I was like, I'm not fucking seeing
that. She's really good. Okay, she's way over the top in the movie.
No, I would say that like it's not her.
Adam Driver is so good.
The lines that are written in that movie, like even in the trailer, I'm just like that seems like an insufferable thing to watch. So
yeah, it's a lot of her doing that type of stuff in the movie. Whereas Adam Driver is like the only one that's like trying to do actual acting.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad that she finally gets to be Harley Quinn because obviously she was really trying to be in that movie. So good for her.
Oh man, she totally was. She really was.
Yeah.
And hey, thank God it's a musical, said nobody about the Joker movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's your last On that downer note, what's your last Nick Cage movie?
That was it.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah.
And Magic Man's great. Anyway, let's
it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Let's look at the America's Pick 5 at the box office this week. All right, America. And it was Jesus Hide Your Eggs weekend, so there was some extra money to be made.
People were out, I'll tell you.
People were out there looking for eggs and Jesus. All right, so we got number 5 holding steady is Scream 6. Good for them for continuing to make that much money. And then number 4 is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Quite enjoyed that movie. Number 3 is Air. This was a debut for Air, which is, by the way, not about the element. It's about Air Jordan. Number 2, some people might, need to know that. Oh, dang, I was going to see it until you said that. Number 2 is John Wick Chapter 4, continuing to make all those millions worldwide, which is awesome. I think it passed.
I like Chad just being really sad, going, "I guess we're making a 5th one." That's one of my favorites so far. And I'm sitting here seeing the movie, having seen the movie, going, "I don't know how you're gonna do that."
Yeah, that's gonna be impossible. Good luck, buddy. Yeah. Number 1 is making all the money in the planet. It's the highest debut at a box office for an animated movie of all time. It beat Frozen 2 for that record. It's Super Mario Brothers movie, which is totally okay. So if you want to listen to my thoughts on and I think a couple other people's thoughts on Super Mario Brothers movie and Air, go listen to the Current Gen podcast. There was a segment in there where I talked about those movies, and I think Tim and Derek on the show also saw Super Mario Brothers movie, so they chimed in as well. But yeah, I wanted to talk about something else for this episode because I was like, what more can I say about the shoe movie?
If I have to hear, oh, good, yeah, I thought you were going to talk about Mario. I was like, if I have to hear more about Mario, like I'm going to blow my brains out. Like,
it is one of those things.
Everyone's talking about this movie. I'm like, we all need to chill out a little bit. Everybody.
Yeah, for real. we already needed to chill out collectively when it was like Chris Pratt's going to be the voice.
I know, that's the whole thing, is that this whole roller coaster of this movie has been annoying to me. Like, oh, I hate Chris Pratt. Absolutely. And I'm like, okay, then why is everybody and their mother singing this movie then if you hate Chris Pratt so much? Like, we had months since December whenever we saw the trailer of just like people, and I think we saw a first trailer way before too, but like the first time people like saw him and talked or whatever, it was just never ending. And then everyone
remember he says a line that's not even in the movie. He goes, "Mushroom Kingdom, here we come," and everybody was like, "This is gonna be the worst movie ever made. It's gonna be the
worst thing ever." And people still lined up around the block to see this movie. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know where people's loyalties lie. It's not to their own word, I'll tell you that. But,
so ridiculous.
So yeah, that's the only reason I'm like over it. And like, I'm gonna wait until it's not a thing, and then I'll watch it, and then I'll be like, "Hey guys, I saw that movie." Actually, I won't, because I'll probably be totally mid, so I don't really care.
Anyway, that's where we're gonna leave off this episode. Next week, or whenever the next episode is, we're gonna talk about something else. I don't know.
We're talk about a movie, maybe even a few of them.
Maybe even a few. Who knows? Verdict's still out. I don't know. I'm seeing a few movies this week. I am seeing Suzume, which is a new movie by the director of, I think he did Your Name and Weathering with You, which I loved both of those movies.
I like those movies, too.
So I can't wait to see it. I'm going to see an English dub in the theaters this week, which is great. But also that does mean the English dub is going to take forever to come out on home video. Because that happened.
Hard, yeah. I just now was able to like secure Your Name with like English dubbing and stuff like that.
Yeah, and there's
like Jessica, like just a year ago. Like
I think Alison Brie's in that one. Like
she's that's an all-star cast, man.
Yeah.
Is it Joseph Gordon-Levitt or was that a different movie?
It might have been a different one, but I do recall Alison Brie being in that one, and I was like, yeah, man, this dub is great. Where the hell is it online? Like, it's crazy. Anyway, so thanks for listening if you listen this long, and continue to check us out wherever the hell we are. Twitter is at current_cinema. And we are obviously on this YouTube channel, Current Gen Podcast. And we're also still going to be on the Current Gen Podcast talking about primarily gaming, but, sometimes movies will sneak in when I get to ramble like I do now. So thanks for listening, everybody, and